Hello, everyone, and welcome to this FinSmart live panel discussion. And today it's going to be a very interesting topic, women in accounting, right? And how are they leading the change? So let me start with something simple. Okay. So for decades, accounting has been built around a very familiar model. Okay. Long hours, tax season pressure, client deadlines, a very linear path and a very fixed image of what leadership looks like. But over last few years, something has clearly started to shift. Okay. More women are building firms. More women are leading teams. More women are creating strong voices in the industry. And we have few panelists here today. More importantly, they are not just trying to fit into the old model, they are asking better questions, right? So, why should growth always mean burnout? Why should flexibility be seen as a compromise? Why should leadership look only that way? Okay. Or why should the best accountant always remain buried in the delivery? Right. So today we are not just talking about women succeeding in accounting, but I think we are talking about how women are reshaping the profession itself. And the big question is, what are women leaders doing differently, and what can the entire accounting industry learn from them? And I have a very interesting panel today around the globe. So with me today, I'm delighted to introduce to you to Nayo Carter-Graves. Nayo, welcome to the this webinar.
Thanks for having me.
So yeah, so let me introduce her. So she's founder and CEO of First Step Accounting and one of the most influential voices in the accounting profession today. Nayo has built a powerful platform by combining accounting expertise with visibility, community, and authentic leadership. Through her content, speaking, and industry presence, she has challenged traditional ideas of what accounting looks like and how professionals can build influence beyond the client work. Okay. What makes Nayo's perspective especially relevant on today's conversation is that she represents a new generation of leadership in accounting, and one that is more visible, more connected, and unafraid to challenge outdated norms in the profession. So, really excited to have you here today, Nayo. Maybe if you want to do your first comments.
Well, first, thank you so much for having me today. And I love this intro. It's not my traditional bio that, that normally circulates. So it is great to hear what you all think of me, and I am super appreciative. I am very interested in this conversation because being a leader in accounting is very difficult. It's also one of those things that you don't necessarily assign to yourself. It kind of sometimes just falls on your lap, and you're like, well, how the heck does this happen? And where am I supposed to go from
Mm,
here? I've been
mm.
fortunate enough to have bosses in the past that have poured into me. So it's one of the reasons why I look forward to giving back in conversations just like this.
Yeah, great. So let me introduce second panelist today. So Jane Watkins. Jane, welcome to the show.
Hi, nice to be
So
here. Thank you.
yeah, so Jane is owner of Tax Time Services, who has built practice around sustainable growth, strong client relationships, and very modern operational thinking. Because she comes from the industry to this side of the firm, so she has very important perspectives to share. Jane brings the realities of leading a firm day in day out, balancing people, processes, growth, client expectation in this constantly evolving industry. What stands out about Jane is her practical and grounded approach to leadership. She represents a growing group of women in accounting who are just not succeeding within the profession, but actively how firms are built, managed, and scale. Jane, really glad to have you here. And it was interesting conversations last we met that, how from studying in New Zealand to being, incubated here in US. So I think it's a really important perspective you bring to the table.
Thanks, Manoj. I appreciate that, the comments, and thank you for having me today. This is a topic that's very dear to my heart, having spent my whole career in accounting, different realms of it. But looking forward to our conversation today. I think we're going to see some really great different perspectives, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, welcome. And then we invite Shalaka Joshi. She is the founder of FinSmart Accounting. She is my co-founder, and probably, we are going to have this formal conversation for the first time. Otherwise, it's always like a coffee chat, right? FinSmart, as you know, it's a global accounting offshoring company which works with firms across US and beyond. Shalaka has played a key role in helping accounting firms rethink traditional operating models through scalable teams, setting up global talents, and smarter capacity building strategies. Under her leadership, FinSmart has grown into a trusted partner for firms looking to scale sustainability without compromising on quality and culture. What makes Shalaka's journey especially interesting is that she has been a part of changing not just how firms grow, but how they think about the growth itself, right? And FinSmart have been kind of supporting a lot of these, accounting CPA firms and industry finance teams to kind of a scale. Her perspective on leadership, team building, and building firms for future makes her incredibly relevant to this today's discussion. So, Shilaga, thank you for being here with us, and maybe your first comment.
Yes. So thank you, Manoj. I'm excited to be part of this conversation because accounting is my passion. I love playing with numbers. And when it's combined with leadership, it becomes a topic very close to my heart, as Jane has mentioned. So happy to be here and looking forward to have conversation with like-minded people who have joined today's conversation. Thank you.
So let's begin with your journeys. So every leadership journey looks very neat from outside, okay, but inside there are so many choices, trade-offs, doubts, moments where you decide I'm not going to follow the standard, and stuff like that. So Jane, let me start with you. You had a very different career path before you started your own accounting firm, and so what was that turning point where you said I want to build my own firm?
Thanks, Manoj. So just, my background is I worked in Big Four for over 20 years, and I also worked in industry, running tax departments, different things like that. And I'd actually gone back to Big Four, and I was in a leadership role, and I had kids at home, and I just one day was like, you know what, I just really need more flexibility and to own my own schedule. Because I just felt like I didn't own it. I guess, at the end of the day, I was a very conscientious, employee and worked really hard. And I, got to the point where I was just like, my son was going to leave home in a couple of years' time. And I just decided that I wanted to go all in there. And I think that was a conscious choice. I wanted to be able to be present. And by present, I mean, sit there and listen to your kids talking. You're actually listening to what they're saying. Like you're not just sitting there kind of, hurry up or thinking about something else. And so, so I was fortunate to have the opportunity to jump out of the position I was in and I actually bought a firm, a small firm. And, when I left, it was EY at the time, I told them there's three reasons why I'm leaving. One is I just want to have more time with my kids. I want to own my schedule. Second is I wanted to sit on a board at the, the PA board at the school. I took on the treasurer role and I did that for a couple of years. And, it was a pretty big role, but they meet in the middle of the day. And so, I needed that flexibility to do that. And I also wanted to be able to do some things in the community. And those were three really strong kind of convictions that I had that made me feel really confident about making that jump.
Yeah. And when you started, you had a design in mind, or you just started and figured out on the way?
No, so I purchased the small firm with the goal of obviously growing it to be something bigger. It's a little bit different when you take on somebody else's firm. It's not exactly what perhaps you would have in mind, and so you have to sort of decide where you want to take it, bearing in mind that change is something you have to consider. But I was really fortunate, and I did inherit, or what came with the firm was a couple of really great employees, and I was able to add to that with some colleagues from my time at Big Four, and really, strengthen the internal employees in the firm, and that helped me be able to sort of mold a little better as we moved along.
That's great. So now coming to you, so you see so many leaders and firms across the industry, and when you look at women who are building strong careers or stronger firms, do you notice any pattern, or are they just working harder or making a different choices?
Women like to do it all. One of the things that I notice is that a lot of the women colleagues that we have across the globe are people pleasers or recovering people pleasers. And sometimes we lose the boundaries we need in order to be better leaders, not only in the firm, but also, participate with our families. Jane just mentioned wanting to have more time with her kids and actually being present when she's talking to them. Sometimes that's
Mm,
hard for us to do if we are as women leaders trying to run the firm and make our clients happy and still be there. Sometimes we feel like all of the balls we're juggling, we might drop one. So, one of the things when I'm in all the events and conferences and through conversations like this is I'm really honing in that boundaries are super important and that no is a complete sentence because as a leader, your job is not to do it all. Your job is to lead and guide and direct and find people to do some of the things that you don't necessarily need or want to do in your day to day, especially when running the firm. So,
mm,
if anybody can take anything away from this conversation, no, complete sentence. We don't have to explain why we're saying no to something. Every client is not a good fit. You don't have to take on the responsibility of doing something because you can do it better than somebody else. Our goal is to lead and direct and to take on work that brings us joy. And so it's okay to do that. Sometimes we need permission. So I'm giving you that permission today.
And now, so you have stepped into a leadership role, and you've been really an active voice in the accounting community. So, what is that one mindset shift, that helps women to move from just being good at work to being seen as a leader?
This is a toughie because it does take a lot of confidence to know that you're stepping into a role or in a position where you're going to be judged. And so, that's hard walking in a room knowing somebody is looking at you and making some determinations or has preconceived notions about what you know, what you don't know, what your role should be. And that's especially hard for me as a Black woman. When I walk in the room, I'm not
Mm,
automatically given the authority or people don't know what I know. I don't walk around with both my degrees pinned to my label, right? So they don't know that I have a master's degree and my master's is in information systems. So I got a big IT background, love for
mm,
IT as well as my accounting. And I've been doing accounting since high school. But all of that, it does not translate with just physical presence. That comes in getting to know people or, talking when people ask questions and you're answering. So as you evolve and you start moving up into those leadership roles, one of the things that you do have to let go of is the idea that everybody's going to like you and you can be everybody's friend, just because the reality
mm,
is there will be some people that you just won't mesh well with and you won't be friends with them. And they may not like you, but you still may have to work alongside them in some capacity. So being professional enough to do so, but also understanding that you aren't besties and y'all aren't holding hands walking down the street or going on vacation together, is really a strong realization for me because as I, join these rooms, sometimes I hear those conversations about, oh, they don't like me. And I'm like, the job is not for them to like you. The job is for them to respect you so that you can get the work that needs to get done. So that's my
mm,
piece of
mm.
advice.
And do you think that women waits too long to claim this leadership space? They are happy doing what they're doing inside the firm.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I think that some women do enjoy being in the background. Like I'll use my mom as an example. My mom does not like being a manager or in charge of other people. She is very
Mm,
happy to do anything that she's instructed to do, and she'll do it very well. So she
mm,
takes pride in the work that she's given. But she does not like managing five other people. That stresses her out. But then there are other people who want that leadership role and haven't had an opportunity to be put in that place. And so sometimes you kind of have to build opportunities in order to showcase that you can do
Mm,
this. Like one of the things I was fortunate enough when I was in industry was I had a boss who let me hire an intern and sent me to a management class. He saw something in me and says, "Okay, you're not going to just be in the little cubicle we have you
mm,
in. He saw that I wanted more and he invested in me. So if you're in a position as a woman in a leadership role and you're seeing your team or other women who are looking like they want those opportunities, also don't be afraid to give them some ways to grow, even if it's giving them ownership over a project and letting them lead the project versus, you being in charge and just having them do all the work. Sometimes we need
mm.
somebody else to pour into us to give
Yeah.
us that confidence and
Mm.
belief to let us know that we can go the next mile.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. True that. So Shalaka, you started FinSmart way back in 2007 at the time when, offshore accounting, outsourcing were not very prevalent, right? It was not very common. So when you started, what was the kind of an early doubts you had, maybe about the business, about the model, how it will all play out? So
Okay.
what were your thoughts?
So around that time, the reason why I got into offshoring was because globally, talent crunch had started around that time. And everybody was struggling to have and retain good accountants, not only in India, but it was a global problem. And IT was going on, it was boom. So I kind of visualized that accounting outsourcing is going to be the next step here. That's going to be a
Mm,
natural pivot to what is happening today in terms of IT outsourcing. And I never had any doubt about it. I was pretty confident that this is what it is going to unfold in coming years. The only question was how soon people will accept this, because this was a
mhm,
totally new concept then. Uh, Globally, people were not so aware about what is happening in India. So asking for work, offshoring work across the boundaries, across the borders was little difficult. Technology was not so advanced. So the question was when client will be mentally ready to offshore the work. But I was always knowing that it is going to happen sooner or later. So to be honest, there were no early doubts as such. I truly believed into this model when I started the firm.
And as a woman, had you had to prove to anybody to start this, or it was easily
Oh.
acceptable for people around you?
I think clients accepted me very well in the sense they took some time to understand the process and how it's going to work. But being woman never came in the way between. But yes, with employees, I did struggle a little bit because when I started, I was in my early 30s. And then for the employees, it was a young girl starting something related to accounting. Even the concept is not known. So, so when I started hiring, I had some issues in attracting right talent. But then fortunately, I got blessed with good people, right team, and yes, and things happened.
Yeah, so very interesting. So all three of you, come with a very different, diverse background, and have kind of created a mark in accounting. So coming to a little bit on the culture side of it, so when we look at the accounting firms, they've kind of normalized a lot of pressures, be it client deadlines, month-end close, tax seasons, emails at odd hours, and stuff like that. So urgency is becoming the default way of operating. Okay. And then somewhere along the way, always available start looking like a commitment. Okay. So, but many women leaders are challenging this, not because they want to work less, but because they want to create a sustainable firm. And like how Jane, you said that, do design the firm in a way because you wanted to, run your own calendar and not be mandated by people. So Jane, so as a firm owner, how have you protected your firm while it is still growing fast, right?
That's a great question, and I think as a woman, what we hear the most is how to find balance or harmony, or those different sort of concepts come about. Way back in my career, I was actually had a different concept presented to me, which was, we all have different hats that we wear. We wear lots of different hats, so it
Hmm.
might be, employee, mother, wife, all those different things. And when you get up in the morning or before you go to bed at night, decide consciously which hat you're going to get up in the morning and put on, and that's the one you're going to wear, and that's the one you're championing for the day. That's the one you're going to strive to be successful at. It doesn't mean that you're going to ignore the others, but it sort of helps you prioritize where your priorities are. And so, if, for example, I choose today as my mother hat, then it kind of gives me that authority to put off client things, to delay a few client things, and I want at the end of the day say, I was a great mum. I was successful at that today, and was I amazing at my job? Was I as most successful as I could have been? No, but that's okay because that was how I chose it to be. And so I've really brought that into the firm and the way that I run my little firm, because I have, the opportunity to do that, and really worked with my staff to, help them understand that as well. Like it's okay not to be all things to all people at all times.
Was it difficult to set boundaries with the clients? Because many a times this is a challenge, right? Because the client expectations are something else, and we started firm with some different design. So, was there
Yeah.
any clash any point in time?
I think it's all about the relationships that you build with your clients.
Hmm.
And I think that the more open that communication is and the more that you have that good relationship with them, it allows you to set those boundaries better. And, when you first come into a firm like I did, I kind of had a fresh start with a lot of those new clients. And, was I think one of the things that I really interested me is quite often I think our natural instinct is, especially in accounting, because it's how we've been raised in accounting, is we just say yes and we say tomorrow. And I really learned fast that I could say today, I'll get that to you by the end of next week. And the clients don't push back typically. Now, if they need it, they will. Um, or but what I really struggled with was trying to train my staff to do that. They just had it ingrained in them to say tomorrow or the next day or whatever. And so it was really trying to change that culture, I think, is really what it is. That it's okay to give a timeline or push something out a little bit further. I think you learn to read the situations and that sort of thing too as you spend more time in the industry, and you know what is more pressing and what's not.
Mhm.
So that obviously helps. But for the most part, I'd say when I give a client a timeline, they're very really push back on that.
Now, what's your take on this always on model? So why do
Uh,
you think that this overwork is celebrated in our industry?
well, we are a society that values hard work. And when you
Hmm.
provide a service, that hard work is typically tied to time. So the more time we spend at our desks means that we're working harder.
Well, yeah. Hmm.
Which is why I think that overworking or, just sitting at your desk, pressing buttons is still celebrated to this day. What I found is that we are not prioritizing our health because sitting down all day is not a healthy lifestyle. And one of the things that I started doing was actually putting things on my calendar that are appointments for myself. So I go to the gym, work out with a trainer 3 days a week. And if I can show up for clients with all the appointments on my calendar, then I should be able to show up for the appointment that I've set with myself on the
Mhm.
calendar as well. And so I just use it as an opportunity as, if it's on the calendar, it's going to get done. So, we look at this tax season with these compressed deadlines
Hmm.
and not wanting to let people down by filing an extension. It's like, but why is this letting somebody down? It's a tool. Like I wouldn't get mad at my contractor for using a hammer. It's the tool in his tool belt. So are extensions. So, we reward the clients that are proactive and we don't necessarily penalize the clients that aren't proactive, but we also don't allow them to put their stress and time constraints on us. And that is very difficult to do because as a business owner, you're like, oh, the client's going to get mad. I'm going to lose money. But what I found is
Mm,
that the clients gain respect for the process. And if they are a good client, they start conforming to the process to make what they want become a reality. So if you give
mm,
them those firm boundaries and say, hey, the store closes at 9. They
mm,
if they show up at 9:01, they can't get in, right? If we go to the mall closes at 7 o'clock. You show up at 8 o'clock, you can't get in the mall. Are you, putting a bad review on the mall? You're not. And so sometimes I have to say, just because we're running these virtual firms does
mm.
not mean we are 24/7. We aren't a
So, yeah.
7-Eleven. Our job is not to be immediately available for every single client all the time. Our job is to do the thing that we do very well for the clients that we serve. And what that looks
Mm,
like for your firm might be different. Like, I am not an 8 a.m. girl. So, if clients wants to meet me at 8 in the morning, I'm like, I'm gonna refer you to somebody else because I am terrible to talk to at 8 a.m. But 3,
mm,
4 o'clock, oh, we can have a great meeting because my peak energies at that time. So just understanding those type of things too also is important as you choose the right clients, choose the right employees, because your employees are an extension of you. And if your clients are pushing back on them, your job is to protect your employees as well, and then help them get a little confidence to push back. They just need to know that they have your support to push back. Because sometimes they're like, oh, I don't want to make my boss mad. But tell them, I got your back. Whatever you decide is what I'm gonna where we're gonna go with this particular client. So, but
mm.
hard work,
I
service
would.
business, sitting at a desk.
So I would love to see someday on some firm's website that who can be my customer. Naya, do you see that the people who are younger, forming or incubating firms now, they are very clear about the design and how they want to work versus the older ones?
I think the young ones have this general concept of how they want things to work, but then reality sometimes knocks them down just a little bit. They come
Mm,
in very optimistic. They're going to make all this money, and these are all the clients they're going to serve. And then I think one of the things that they miss out on is understanding the different parts of a business. Just because
mm,
you got the accounting degree does not mean you can go hang up a shingle tomorrow and everything's going to be amazing, and they're going to have this wonderful work-life balance. So I think they come in very optimistic, and then reality knocks them down a peg. And I hate
mm,
that for them. I really do, because I love the energy and the sparks. And what I try to encourage is you come out of college or you are, gung-ho, ready to start this new business. It is okay to go work with somebody else for a little while to learn what you don't know, or see
mm,
the different aspects of business that you may not have experience with, but working with somebody who's been in industry for a little while, who can kind of teach you the ropes. Ask for a mentor. Those are all key things in running a successful business. One of the ways that I think I'm very good at running a business is because I did multi-level marketing at first. Running a firm, you need to know sales. If you
mm.
can't sell your service, then knowing how to do accounting is a moot point, right? So
Yeah.
just having some of that non-traditional experience does help with being a better firm leader. But the young people, I'm always excited when they're like, I'm going to start a firm, and I'm like, yes, you should do it. But I think you should also have a mentor, somebody that you can talk to when you start struggling a little bit, or you start feeling down because something happened that you just didn't expect. I think, my generation, I'm Gen X, we're the latchkey kids, so we know disappointment very well, and we've figured out how to solve problems I think, a little more uniquely than this new generation. And that is to our advantage, but also to our default because we don't know how to ask for help very well. Whereas though this new generation, it does a way better job of asking for help, and so we can learn. We're learning from each other, I would like to say.
Mm. And sometimes you wonder how do you kind of a balance between ambition and burnout.
Yeah, the burnout and ambition are two competing ideas. I have lots and lots of ideas, and then I have to look at my calendar and say, what can you realistically fit into it? So I think also having a group of friends that you can talk to that are in industry, that will you can run those ideas past them and say, hey, do you think I should invest my time in this? I like to call them your like biz BFFs or your board of directors. I've heard some people call them. But what this does is it helps you take those ideas and even see if they're worth your time. But I like to write them all down, and I have this big list of big ideas so that at any given point when I have some time that can free up, I'm like, oh, I can go to this and see if this works. But I do try to leave space for those big ideas too. At least once a year, I'll go to my list and say,
Yeah.
is there anything on this list that we should be doing, should be looking at? Is it a piece of the business that we should be
Mm.
altering or adjusting to make something better? So you got to
Mm.
leave a little bit of room to dream and not just kind of get in your lane, just get in the car and be on autopilot. So,
Mm.
make a list, find some friends, and then leave some space to actually, daydream.
Yeah, interesting perspective. So, Shalaka, you have a tough job, right? You operate in a multiple time zone, being a global outfit. So, as business grows, how you think about building the model that could, scale sustainably? How do you juggle your time, across the different time zones?
Good question. So, in terms of how do I manage a global business or global operations, I would say the entire emphasis is on setting up robust processes and hiring good talent who have good acumen and understand the importance of adherence to processes. I feel no growth is possible without having a proper structure in place. So as far as operations is concerned, I would say hiring right talent and having right processes in place and ensuring adherence to the same is key to it. And when it comes to managing my time, I feel that's the beauty about it is that it gives you flexibility to manage your responsibilities with family and with business. So yes, so I mean one thing I have always done is I always take my family friends in confidence when I know that I'm going to get into busy season where I'm going to work for crazy hours, my availability is going to be limited, and I have always seen that if you make your family understand that next few months are going to be tough demanding for you, family supports you. So that's how I have been able to manage my time so far.
And when it comes to, setting up the client's expectation or creating a
Yes.
client experience versus sometimes, even at odd hours, you need to support your team. So, how do you balance this culture?
So yes, I mean sometimes clients also do demand during at odd hours, and that is where you need to. That's a tough job, and it's a that what how should I put it? It's a very delicate job. Uh, on one hand, you want to set boundaries, but then you also want to make sure that you are available for the client when he needs you the most. So it is a call that you need to take at that point of time. Maybe once, twice, you can make yourself available to the client at odd hours. But if it becomes a regular pattern, then that's a red flag. That's where you need to set your boundaries. And when it comes to teams, yes, it is important again to set up a hierarchy and not to have everything on your plate. If you have, again, right team and right structure in place, to be honest, team doesn't need me as such during odd hours. They have other senior team members whom they can go to in case of crisis. So that's how I have been able to manage so far.
So, this conversation is not about just working less, but it's more about designing the firms where growth does not really depend on your personal exhaustion, right? And that may
Right.
be one of the biggest shift women leaders are bringing into accounting. So let me ask you, a lot of accounting firms are still built on old assumptions. The owner must know everything. Okay. The best accountant becomes the leader. The growth means many hours. It could be flexibility means lower ambition you have to have. Okay. Delegation means a lot of loss of control. Visibility is optional and stuff like that. So, okay.
Mhm.
So, so Nayo, let me come to you. So, you have been a CEO, a board member, and one of the most respected voices in this industry. Yeah. So, what was that one rule or exception you had to break to claim into the spaces? So what are those few assumptions you really, kind of killed it?
Well, one thing you have to really believe that you belong in the room. I know sometimes we walk into rooms and we're like, why am I here? But I had to remember that I am uniquely Nayo Carter-Gray. There's nobody on this planet named Nayo Carter-Gray that knows what I know, that has the experience that I have, that has the background. I am a snowflake. And so when I understand that I am unique and special, when I walk in these rooms, it feels more like everybody else in this room is unique and special, and I want to get to know them, and they should want to get to know me. So this helps me kind of navigate those spaces without having to question, why am I here? It is because I'm
Hmm.
unique and special. And so, I also love diversifying rooms. That's a key thing that I try to do is when I look at a room and I see everybody in this room probably has the same background, looks the same, is from the same region. It's like, oh, you need a little bit of shaking up in here. And I don't have any problem being, that little pepper flake that gets into the salt container. It's like, get this little thing out of here. But what I found is that I learned something, they learned something, and it makes whatever we're working on that much better. So really, it's just recognizing that you belong here. Apply for the thing, volunteer for the thing. Don't feel like you're underqualified because sometimes we know more than we think we know. And once you're in
Hmm.
that seat and you have those responsibilities, you're like, oh, this is way easier than I thought it was going to be. Because I think as accountants, we're also professional skeptics. So the first thing we go to is everything that's wrong with a thing versus what's right with it. And
Hmm.
so sometimes we have to shift our perspective to say, oh, this is going to be great versus, oh, no, this is going to be bad. This is going to be a time suck. Oh, I'm not going to know anybody in this room. It'll be like, oh, cool. I am going to meet a bunch of new people. Cool. I'm going to spend some time helping whatever this organization is or doing this cool new thing. So it's just about reframing that negative thought to the positive one and just understanding you're unique, you're authentic, you're a snowflake, and you definitely belong in the room.
Yeah, that's great. And Jane, when you started the firm, so what part of traditional firm model did you intentionally wanted to avoid? I don't know whether you were successful or not, but at least wanted to avoid.
I I think building off of what Naya said earlier was, she said no is a complete sentence. I mean, that learning to not say yes all the time. I think that is that's something that you really have to lean into. And what really helped me it was the community. Like I
Okay.
slowly over time found my community in this small accounting kind of industry, which is really different to big corporate. And the one thing that just blew me away was they're really collaborative. Like they want to help each other and they want to see each other succeed. And so by leaning into that, I really learned from a lot of them early on that saying no was okay. And I think that was a big part of what helped me, learn to set those boundaries. And in terms of doing what I did differently was, one of the things, and I think Noah talked about this, was making time to use your time well. And one of the things that you need is time to think. Like actually like process and think things through when
Mhm.
you're working on your business or you've got problems. And I would find that the time I'd spend in the car driving home from dropping my kids off at school, perhaps in the morning from 8 till 9, because it takes ages, um, was a really good thinking. It was alone time. I was just on the road, and I actually discovered that taking my kids to school was one of the best things I could do because I had this hour in the car on the way home every day that I would put aside for me, and I'd come up with my best ideas during that time. I'd solve the world's problems. Like, it was fascinating what I could do. But it took me a while to actually realize that's what I was doing with it. But so yeah, so just I think it's finding your groove, what works for you. But building off what everyone else has said, I think leaning on the small accounting community is just huge.
Yeah. How do you find this your me time in this frenetic routine? So Jane has just said, Nayo, how do you find?
I block it off on the calendar. I am a big believer in the Pomodoro technique, so I love time
Okay.
blocking. And so
Mm,
like I have one day a week where we have no client meetings, which is Fridays, and that's usually the time I set aside for brainstorming or working on the business, not necessarily in the business. So put it on your calendar. So if you just need 30 minutes, an hour, like, and the Atomic Habits say start small. So if an hour feels like it's too much, give yourself 15 minutes. Write down some ideas in that 15 minutes, set a
mm,
timer. Once that 15 minutes is over, then you can move on to the next thing. But you set aside some time. You did it. And then once that 15 minutes feels not enough, then you can add another 5 minutes or another 10 minutes. So I'm a big believer. Put it on a calendar,
mm,
schedule that thing,
mm.
and then use the timer. So
How about you, Shalaka?
It's difficult to be honest. I mean, I have not been so disciplined as Nayo, where I will put it on calendar and uh, find out time for myself. It is a struggle right now as we speak. But yes, I have learned to again coming to boundaries again. I have learned to set boundaries uh, where I have given 1 hour myself for regular exercise and other stuff. I will call it my me time. That's where if I am not available for anyone, including my team, my clients, that's time I have set for myself. But that's only
Mm.
for exercises. I hope with more processes and systems in place, I'm able to have more me time to pursue my other hobbies as well. But right now, this is what I have been able to accomplish so far.
Interesting.
can I add to that? The amount of time you have for yourself does change because,
Yeah.
I don't have little kids anymore and I have way more free time. I love to say the Christmas presents I
Mm,
buy, I get to spend all my money on myself. This is a wonderful thing now, right? So, if you don't have the time right now, cool. You're in this particular phase. You're in growth mode. Some of us are, a little further along, so we got a little bit more time and we're delegating a little bit more. So it's totally fine, because I don't want this to sound like you have to have 25 hours a
yeah.
week dedicated to yourself, because that's not realistic for
Mm.
everybody, right?
Right.
I have 3 hours on the calendar. I go to the gym 3 days a week. Could it be five? Absolutely not. I don't have that much time in a day, but I had to prioritize it because my health was taking a dip. And I said, oh, wait a minute. So
Mm,
your priorities shift, and that time it will change. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be, one size fits all. It's what's best for you
yeah.
at this moment.
All right. Very interesting. So, no, let me go to the next chapter. That is, you all have been leading businesses. Okay. So, I want your take on, how do you move from doing business to leading the business? So, and many firm owners start as an excellent accountants. Okay, they are great at client work, great at delivery, great at solving problems. But then it's very difficult for them to transition into the leadership. Okay, from doing work to leading the business. Leading the business would mean pricing decisions, delegation, hiring, client selection. As you said, Nayo. So you have a very have a boundary of what chemistry would work with client. Um, Strategy, sometimes saying no to the clients and everything, right? So let me come to you, Nayo. So when you work with women firm owners and leaders, what is the most common pattern you see in this transition from being a doer to becoming a leader?
It's hard. I'm still in part of the business. I'm still the doer. So delegating, I can attest, is one of the most difficult things to do because I'm type A. I know that I can do things. I know how fast I can do them. I know how well I can do them. But teaching my team has been a priority for me this year. So one of the ways that I've been doing that is one, recording the things that I'm doing as I'm doing them so that we can build out SOPs that have a video kind of to go along with it to show the team. The other thing that I'm doing is kind of pushing my team into uncomfortable situations and then forcing them to do the thing that it is that I need them to do. So, for an example, I'm the one who normally leads the meetings with the clients, and this year I have invited my team to the meeting and then not shown up so that they are forced to run the meeting because they can't just sit there and look at the client and say, well, what do you want to meet with today? So I've done that to them a few times. So they've now learned to be way more prepared for meetings or even to figure out what questions to ask the clients in order to kind of get the conversation started. But that's super hard for them to do if I'm there. Because if I'm there, they're looking at me like, okay, you're here. Go ahead and do what you do. So it's also difficult for me to know that I'm pushing them, so to say, into these situations where the client is on the other end and has no clue what's going on.
Hmm.
But it's forcing me to also be comfortable releasing it, knowing that however it ends up is okay, how it's going to end up. And then one other thing that we do is annually we go through our client roster. I like to do what I call
Okay.
humanize our clients. We talk
Hmm.
about who the client is, what the business does, who they are as individuals, like if they're moms, sisters, brothers, kids, anything they do for fun, and then this list of services that we're offering to them and whether they are still a good fit or not. So my team gets the opportunity to say, I don't think this client's good. I will trust them and we'll disengage with the client. So they are also involved in taking ownership in who we're serving because they are the boots on the ground. They are the ones who have to do that day-to-day work. And I have to be able to trust that they know the clients that we're serving well enough to tell me when somebody's not a good fit. And what that does for them is give them confidence to let them know, like, oh, she listens to the things that we say. We do have input here. And I kind of feel like that makes them puff their chests up a little bit better. It's like, oh, I know this thing. Uh, but if you ask them the last couple of days, I've been fussing at them, so they might be a little mad at me right now because we're working on some kind of things that they don't know. And it's like I'm drilling these concepts into them and it's making them feel so uncomfortable. Um,
Hmm.
but I feel like on the other end of this, they're going to be like, I finally know this thing. It might have taken 2 months, but now Nayo won't have to worry about any payroll issues from here on out.
Yeah, that's great. So, Shalaka, you have seen different business cycles, and I'm sure when we started this offshoring in US, we rapidly grew from like 30 people to 150 people in 3 years, and that was a big shift, right? So, from being a founder operator to becoming a kind of a business builder. So, how did this transition look for you?
I'll admit, honestly, it was not easy. It required a lot of mental shift and some work with myself. And that's where, Manoj, even I want to thank you. You helped me in that mental shift. But yes, it was difficult for me. Uh, but yes, it happened over a period of time. I had to work on myself, but eventually I understood that that is what is needed for the hour and for this business to grow and blossom further. So finally, it
Mm.
happened.
Mm. So Jane, your comments on so you have been very active in the community, and as you said, you have built a lot of friends in accounting community. Last time when we were talking, you said you have a small group where you keep meeting people, time and again. So, how do you bring those time up when you are able to do all this?
That's a great question. Similar to what everyone else has said, I mean, I do block it out on my calendar and I prioritize that. I feel that, self-development is really important, but also the wealth of knowledge and ideas that I get from collaborating and having friends in the community is just really valuable. And
Mm.
it's also reassuring, I think, we definitely have as leaders in the community or in our businesses, we have mentors, right, that we lean on and reach out to. But I think it's having that good friend as well, right? That best friend that you can call up and, commiserate over something that a client said to you or something that a client did, right? It's just having that person to lean on. And that's where I think that the community's just been incredible. And I would encourage everyone who's on this call, if you haven't found the community, reach out to one of us, because, we would all love to help you find your people, because they're there.
True. And so, folks, the time is running out. So I'll jump to the last, section, where I want to talk a little about the future of accounting and, what will change. So, the next generation of accounting is entering the profession with a very different expectations, and it has been spoken about, it has been written about, and, I've been looking at that accounting today, some articles. So they want flexibility, they want meaningful work, they want a better technology, and hopefully that is happening. They want stronger boundaries, they want leadership opportunities earlier, and they are less willing to accept this is how it was always been done. So what is the one thing the next generation of accountants, especially women, will simply not tolerate anymore? So, Nayo, can we start with you?
I think this next generation of accounting is going to start not tolerating overworking. I think our bodies are going to tell us we cannot sit in this chair for 12 hours a day. And
Mm.
so this newer crop of accounting, especially the ladies, are going to be like, I got to get up, I got to move. And so they're not going to be just crunching over the ergonomically correct keyboard, just typing away. They're really going to be out and about, just really showcasing what accounting is, how we can help clients and meet them on their terms, and then prioritizing their health and their wellness and their mental health, because we just can't keep running our bodies into the ground, just grinding at the desk all day.
I agree entirely with that. And I think that we're going to see women also be much more selective about who they work with and where they work. And I think that there's, when you first start off as a firm owner, or you're on your own as an entrepreneur, I think you feel like you're being judged, right? Like, I think you feel like everyone's watching to see if you're going to succeed or fail. That's how you feel. In reality, I don't think it's like that at all. I think everyone is actually championing you on. You just don't realize it. And the funny thing to me is, do you know what the things are? People ask me, how many clients do you have and how many employees do you have? And it cracks me up, because neither of those two things are an indicator of success, right? And
Yeah,
so it's
absolutely.
great. I'll tell you that. It's not. So I think it is really, following your passions, what you love doing, serve the clients that you
Mm.
love in an industry that you're really interested in and that you love working in. And I do think that that makes us more successful, and just leads into all those things that Nayo said, right? It makes us just have that better lifestyle that's healthier.
And Shalaka, so you have built a different kind of a scale. And when I look at FinSmart, almost like 70% are women. So,
Yeah.
what do you tell them one thing, to become comfortable while, kind of a scaling, whether it's delegation, ambition, money, decision making, visibility, how do they handle all?
I think what working women here value the most is flexibility at work. Sorry, it can be in terms of hours or otherwise. If somebody wants to have a break for 15 days, that's fine. If somebody wants to opt for a leave because somebody is not well at home, that's fine. We offer that kind of flexibility a lot. And I think that's what keeps them going, because end of the day it is not all about
Yeah,
money. For a working woman, maintaining balance between work and her other
yeah,
responsibilities is very important, and as long as
yeah.
we are providing that support, it goes a
Hmm.
long way. That's what I believe.
Sure. Yes, it was great. And now let's move to the last, round of this webinar. That is a rapid fire. Okay, so let's have a quick one. Okay, so I'll ask question. Everybody has to just respond very briefly, maybe one word, maybe two, three words at the most. So tax season in one word.
Experimenting.
Come on, quick.
Technology
Anybody can
required.
go.
Technology required.
Okay. Client boundaries, scary or necessary?
Necessary.
Very
Necessary.
Visibility, uncomfortable or powerful?
It is powerful.
powerful.
Okay. One thing you will never do again as a leader.
Keep staff on that you should fire.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
Hire slow, fire fast.
Ah. One thing that still makes you nervous.
Walking into a
Firing
room
people.
of people I don't know.
Oh,
Bringing new leaders in the organization.
firing people. That makes me
Okay,
nervous.
one leadership myth you want to break.
We know it all.
Yeah, right. A leader doesn't need to know everything. Yeah.
Busy doesn't equate to success.
All right, thank you so much, Nayo, Shalaka, Jane. It was absolutely lovely to host you here in this, webinar. And women in accounting are leading the change. And what comes out is that women are just not asking for an opportunity; they are questioning the assumptions, the profession that is carried been for too long, right? That growth must come with burnout. Okay, they are challenging everything. That leadership must look a certain way. The best accountant must always have or remain the busiest person in the firm. Okay, the visibility is optional, and old systems should continue simply because they are familiar. So we are killing it all. And so the real question is, are women changing accounting? They already are. And we already seen these three guests who have built the firm. The real question is, will the rest of the profession learn from them fast enough or no? So that's on to for the audience. Thank you, Nayo, Jay, and Shalaka, for it was a great, wonderful conversation and having you here. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you so
Thank you.
Thanks for
much.
Thanks
having
for
us.
having me.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Okay, bye bye. See you. Thanks.